All right, here we go. Hello. Sarah here. Welcome back to another episode of You're Fucking Welcome. I feel like it's been a very long time, and I apologize for that. I kind of apologize for that. I went home for the holidays, of course, was in cold-ass New Jersey for a little while there, and then I got home, back to LA, and I got so sick, like immediately, so sick. As you can probably hear from my voice, I sound a little bit like Peter Brady in the Brady Bunch, just kind of like squeaking and going in and out there. And so not super attractive. I apologize. But yeah, I was so sick last week. I was just out. I was down for the count. Like I got nothing done for almost an entire week, which was kind of nice, to be honest with you. It was a nice opportunity to kind of like reset. But I feel excited to kind of like be back at work. I'm recording this as it's a Monday as I'm recording it, and excited to kind of like, get back into it and dive back into it. And I feel like there's so much that I want to say to you. There's so much that I want to talk to you about. And so when I was thinking about what to share with you in this episode in particular, I was just thinking about the very real fact that I feel like there are a lot of people right now who, I don't know, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but I feel like I've heard from a lot of people that have just felt like their business has been kind of thrown for a loop over the past year or so, just with so many different changes happening online and just the way that things work. Like, again, I know I've said this before, but like I've been doing this for a while, right? Like I've had a business since 2012, but I've been in the coaching space since 2015. And I feel like the past year has definitely marked the most dramatic period of changes that I've ever seen. And I've just heard from people, I don't mean like clients necessarily, I just mean like friends, people in general, that I feel like a lot of people are kind of like feeling the repercussions of that and feeling like they're trying to gain their footing and figure out how to do things and what to do in order to, get the sales that they want, that they deserve, all of that. And so if you are somebody who is maybe not making the money that you want to be making right now, number one, I just wanted to remind you that there's like no shame in that. Not that we have to accept it. I think accepting it is the worst possible thing that we can do, right? We want to decide what we want and then create that. But I also just feel so strongly that for each of us in our businesses, there are going to be moments of recalibration, and there are going to be moments where we have to like regain our footing. And it doesn't always have to be a negative thing, especially because in my experience, in my opinion, so often that slowing down leads to really big leaps, and it leads to a period of really amazing growth. And so I don't know, I just wanted to give you that reminder and give you hopefully some faith to hold on to in terms of that being true for you, right? Like if you're in a moment where you feel like you're in a valley, if you will, right? Like that peak is right in front of you. That peak is possible. And I want you to keep reminding yourself of that versus feeling, overly down or feeling as though you're never going to get out of where you are right now. But if we're talking about strategy and we're talking about what to do to, change your business, turn your sales around, however we want to say that, I just felt like sharing 3 things with you that I think are really important and powerful for you no matter what stage of business you're in, no matter how long you've been doing this. And just as important, they're things that I often find that people are not prioritizing as much as they probably could be or should be. And so again, it felt really important to share with you and to remind you of today. So the first thing, if you are not feeling happy with your sales right now in your business, and especially if that has been true for a couple months now, I want to remind you how motherfucking important it is that you are placing an emphasis on audience growth. I don't know what it is. It's confusing to me almost, but I find that in this online space, so many people get so, I don't want to say the word obsessed, but they get so attached to the people that are already in their world that what happens, I've seen this happen so many times, is what happens is that people, coaches, will continue creating new things for their existing people because they're like, oh, Sally has bought from me before. Jen has bought from me before. What do I have to keep creating? And what's the next thing to do so that Sally and Jen keep buying from me again and again and again? And they're in this place where they're, again, so attached to their existing audience that A, they keep creating more things for the existing audience, and B, they neglect the act and they misunderstand or they forget how important it is to keep bringing new people into their world. And again, that feels like such an obvious point to say, while at the same time, I've spoken with enough of you that I know that for so many of you, intentional audience growth is not part of your priority list. You're focused on, and not even like that it's a wrong thing, but you're so focused so often on the low-hanging fruit, and the low-hanging fruit feels like your existing audience. And so when you're thinking about how do I make money, how do I launch this thing, you're just thinking of what's already right in front of you, which again is not a bad thing. We want to take care of our existing audience. Balanced out with, it is wildly important, especially when we look at how the reach sucks and how much more difficult it feels to reach people than it used to. If we are thinking about the fact that so few people are seeing your stuff, that makes the case that we have to keep building up those numbers. So even if only a small number of your people are seeing it, it's still that small number is still a little bit bigger because we're growing our audience. And again, like I said, it's not that I think you don't know this, but I think it's that so often you are so, again, obsessed and attached to your existing audience that you're not seeing clearly that there are so many other people, like I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of other people out there who need to hear what you have to say, but because you are so worried about your existing audience paying you because they have before, you're not seeing clearly what opportunities you have out there to bring existing people or people that are already out there, bring those people into your existing work. And instead you're continuing to create more work for yourself because you continue creating for the people who are already in your world instead. Okay. And so for me personally, I know that audience growth is a huge priority for me as we go into this new year. And the other thing that I had to really work on, and this is something that I don't want to say I've always struggled with it, but I know this about myself, that if I say, okay, I want to grow my audience, I want to grow my email list, here's this way I could do it. I could do this way. I could do this way. I could do this way. All of a sudden it winds up feeling like this runaway train. I feel like I have to do a million different things, and it can feel really quickly overwhelming to me. And so I know myself that I know that I have to sit there and say, okay, here are all my ideas, but here are the 5 things or the 3 things or the 6 things, whatever. Here are the things that I am committed to doing to bring people into my world, and not overly obsessing as to whether or not it's the perfect plan or the right plan or the plan that's going to work. Because at the end of the day, I know you've heard me say this a zillion times, but business is just problem solving. Business is just problem solving. So I know that if I show up in front of the people with problems and I showcase the fact that I have solutions, I will make money. And so that's what I'm keeping in mind. I'm not going to overly obsess over the exact right tactic as much as I'm going to trust that if I get in front of all the people with problems and I show all the people with problems my solutions, people will start paying attention and it will all add up in my favor. I choose to trust that, again, instead of getting overly obsessed. And so I wish I could draw or show you what it feels like to me visually, but I have this visualization when I talk about this of it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then it's like almost like this guillotine, but it's not a guillotine. It's like a ray of light. It's light. It's not like a negative or like medieval torture device. It's more like this, I don't know. It's like this lit up spiritual thing that I see in my brain. And it's this like laser beam almost of like cutting off anything else. It's like, okay, fuck the torture vibes. You can't do everything. So you're going to pick these things and you're going to cut everything else off and not worry about those. They're all going to go on the back burner for now. And for some reason, it makes it feel very clean to me and very calming to me. And so again, I especially suggest that you do the same kind of thing where you are focusing on growing your audience, bringing more people into your world. It doesn't matter how many people you have in your world right now. We all need more people in our audience. So focusing on that, but then choosing a couple ways to focus on that versus stretching yourself out and creating a situation where you can't possibly implement the plan that you created for yourself anyway, because I know we all love to do that. And I also know that it's never, ever, ever helpful. So I want you to pick what you're going to do and do it. Okay. The second thing that I think is really important if you want to just up your sales right now, if you're not happy with your sales, I want you to make sure that you are intentionally positioning yourself as the leader at what you do, as the expert at what you do. Here's one thing that I want to say about this. And I was going to say I might get some pushback for this, although I don't think that's true. I am curious to hear your feelings and thoughts on what I'm about to say, though. My belief, my opinion, is that one of the things that has been detrimental when it comes to reels and, short TikTok videos becoming so popular is that as opposed to the times when so many of us would be doing long form content and live videos, with the emphasis being on entertaining, so many people are focused with their short form content on educating and it being light and whatever it is. And that's great. And it might get a lot of views, so on and so forth. But it's not necessarily doing as good of a job in a lot of cases as truly positioning ourselves as the experts we are. It doesn't give us the time. It doesn't give us the space to really share, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I know. And so for me personally, I'm making sure that I'm keeping a balance between, sure, here's the content that gets a lot of engagement, and here's the content that, people really like to interact with, all of that kind of stuff that's going to help me build my brand. That's not a bad thing. But I'm making sure that I'm giving myself an opportunity to really, really, really position myself and to show more people that I know my shit, because I know that I do. And again, I feel like in the short form content, I haven't had as much of an opportunity to do that for myself. And so I'm picking up on that within me. And I wanted to share it with you because I've had this conversation with a couple of clients where, again, they were doing tons of things like webinars or tons of things like, masterclasses, whatever. And then especially, again, when Reels and TikToks became way more popular, they weren't doing as much long form content. And maybe that meant like YouTube videos. They weren't doing blogs anymore. And I get that. And I get, again, how it has felt so like sexy and so appealing to kind of like jump on the short video trend. And not that that's wrong, but I think it really is wildly important that we're making sure that only giving people glimpses of us versus having those opportunities to really, really, really position ourselves as the people who know our shit, that's going to hurt us. And so just as an example of this, right, we're going to, and this is actually going to lead into the third point, but like, I know as we launch moving forward, I want to make sure that we're incorporating low-end masterclasses into everything we launch, because I want to make sure that I have something that people can sign up for where they have that opportunity to really be in my space and really hear my whole thought process. And again, hear my strategies and tactics versus just bites of them, right? Same thing with why I want to really ramp up being on other people's podcasts. This is a whole thing that we're going to be working on in Q2. But for me personally, I know that me getting my, again, expertise out there in front of other people's audiences is wildly, wildly, wildly important. So those are just two examples of how you can do it yourself. But I really want you to make sure that you see that clearly, because again, I know that it can be so appealing and so easy to get lost in the land of like, let me go as viral as possible, or let me get as many views as possible. And not that that's wrong, but I don't give a fuck about getting a bunch of views on a viral video if then like nobody actually follows me from there, or nobody actually wants to learn more. What does that do? What does that help, right? Again, we want to focus on what the core like purpose is of what we're doing, and that's to be experts, and that's to showcase, therefore, that we are experts. And so we have to make sure that we are continuing to do that instead of getting sucked into the trends and, again, not really being able to showcase us as who we actually are and what's going to actually impact the people who want to pay us. And similarly, the third point is making sure that we are giving people more opportunities to really be in our space and in our energy and connect with us. So I want to give you this example. I had a conversation with a client. She booked a single session a couple months ago. And she was somebody who, like, she had been kind of like out of it in her business for a while. Like, she wasn't really showing up. She had had a baby and she was just going through some personal things where she kind of took like a hiatus from really being in business building mode, which is fine. We all go through those moments. That there's nothing wrong with that. And I also don't think bouncing back has to be that hard. But we were talking about, okay, what's the launch plan? What am I going to do next? And we were talking about, I made the suggestion to do this like $7 low end boot camp. She was talking about doing a boot camp, and I suggested doing it for like a really low price for like $7. And she said to me, she was like, I just feel like if I do this for just $7, I'm going to feel like people think that I don't value myself, or I'm going to be really resentful in terms of like what I'm giving. And it was such a valid thing to say. And I was like, as her coach in that moment, I'm like, I fully hear you. And I'm not in a million years going to push you into doing the $7 masterclass or boot camp, whatever, if you don't want to do it. If you don't feel like that is worth your time, any of those things, like totally feel free to honor that and charge more, or we can adjust how you're doing it. However, before you make your mind up about that, what I want to be very clear with you about is that if you are in a position where you are trying to bounce back and you haven't had momentum in your business, you haven't had people paying attention, what I want you to understand is that you're not charging $7 because I'm desperate and I just want people to sign up for this thing. And it's not this thing where like, I'm going to over deliver from this place of I have to. You're charging $7 because it's strategic as fuck and it's for you. You're being smart about how you're doing this. You're going to give all these people an opportunity to sign up for something for just $7. You're going to get lots of those people signed up. Lots of those people signed up. Like, you are going to put an emphasis on making sure that as many people as possible are in this thing. You're going to get them on a $7 boot camp and you're going to blow their motherfucking minds. And you're going to put yourself in such an amazing position to sell what it is that you want to sell next. It's not for them. It's not, oh, I was away for so long, so now I have to do $7 because I don't deserve more than that. No, fuck that. It's I'm being smart and strategic about, okay, I've taken a little bit of a break and now I'm going to bounce back better than ever by getting as many people as possible into my energy, again, blowing their minds and setting myself up so beautifully to get a lot more people wanting to work with me and take that next step. Not to mention, after a $7, whatever, a couple day boot camp, you now have 5 days of recordings of trainings that you get to sell for however much you want to, whether it's $7 or whether you decide you want to sell it for more. You now have something to sell to generate new leads, so on and so forth. Like, this is all for you. Right? Like, we're not abandoning ourselves for them. It's not that we're giving people something so that we can get something. We're being smart about the fact that, again, we know people need this and we're going to use it to our benefit. Of course, it's going to benefit them as well, but it's not us, again, betraying ourselves and not valuing ourselves as much as it is us being strategic and smart and capitalizing on an opportunity to really, 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 again, blow people's minds on a mass level and set ourselves up for more. And again, I think that is so often misunderstood in this space. And I know you've heard me talk about this before, but momentum, feeling people's energy, feeling people being like, yes, oh my God, like you just blew my mind. I feel like you've explained this in a way that nobody else has. This is exactly what I needed to hear. Feeling that reciprocation from your people is one of the most powerful, 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 powerful things that you can do for yourself, not only from this perspective of sales, but for giving you that boost of energy that you might have felt like you were missing. It gives you this whole new infusion of life and energy into your business. And that wave is going to carry you into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I don't want you to undervalue that, because it's so, so, so wildly important and powerful when it comes to what each and every one of us do. And you're never too good, quote unquote, to do something at a low end cost. And not even that it has to be about being low end, but you're never too good to allow more people to experience you, especially if you want to up your sales right now. The more you can allow people to feel that, the better of an opportunity you give yourself, the better position you put yourself in for easier sales whenever you want them. And we all want that. We all deserve that. And it's a lot easier than most people make it. And I want you to hold on to that. Okay. So if you are somebody who wants to figure out how to do this for yourself over the next year, I have my one-on-one offer still open until this week, 2 more spots, Kaleidoscope. It is a one-on-one mentorship, and it's where you and I are creating essentially a custom package for you. If you're somebody who doesn't want to do weekly calls, bi-weekly calls, We can sit there and say, okay, you're going to get 10 hours to use over the course of 90 days as an example. It can go a million different directions. We kick this off with a one-on-one call, a 60-minute call, where we're looking at your business. We're looking at what you want, what you need, and we're creating the game plan in terms of, okay, here's how I'm going to be able to best support you and help you create what it is that you want. And it might look like a 6-month container. It might look like a 3-month container. It is truly going to be tailor fitted to you, your desires, your needs, which I fucking love because I feel like we all need that. None of us need to be put into one more cookie cutter mastermind or, have one more program that we've heard a million times. Like if we've been doing this for a while, we need custom support, and not having custom support is one of the biggest, most costly mistakes that I feel like so many people make. And so I'm so excited to be able to offer this and do this with you. Of course, as always, all the details are on sarah-dan.com to get started. I have 2 more spots available, and so definitely check that out if you're interested in mentoring with me over the course of 2023. If not, I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you took the time to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps the show a ton, and I would be super grateful.